tuning in. So I got Loki here, I got him under saddle. Today is going to be his 7th ride. I'm really excited to show you what he's doing. He's coming along really, really nice. This horse is, although like I told you in his introduction, he has a tendency to get a little bit stiff and nervous at times. Working with that type of horse and bringing out the best of him, they can still be a phenomenal horse, and he really is proving that he wants to do a good job. He's eager to please. And I'm really having a fun time working with him, so I can't wait to show you what he's doing. Before I do, though, I want to talk to you about working with young horses. He's coming to, it's a couple months until his official 2-year-old birthday, and there's a couple things that you need to keep in mind before you ever saddle up that 2-year-old and get them ready. First of all, they need to be having some sort of a groundwork regimen. You need to build their stamina, build their lung capacity, and get them in good shape. If you bring them right out of the cold and saddle them up and start riding them, more than likely you're going to have an injury and be set back a while, and the horse is going to think, okay, well, saddling equals nothing good. You don't want to start on a bad note. Besides that, as long as you make it very low-key, low-pressure, for instance, we walk, trot, and canter all over the place, but I'm not even thinking about building any speed or really adding a lot of pressure to the program until at least halfway through his 2-year-old year. There's no point in bringing a horse out and starting them and then pushing and pushing and pushing, and maybe the one in a few is going to have an okay time with that, and they're really sturdy and then nothing bad going to happen, but more often than not, something bad is going to happen. So just don't take that risk. These horses, they have a huge part in our hearts, and we love them to death. Don't take any risks on injuring them, or if you think you need to wait a little while, go ahead and wait. Both of my colts are very big for the age that they're at, and they're just physically ready. They've had a lot of groundwork. They're prepared for it. If you haven't prepared them, then take some time to prepare them and make sure that their safety is number one. Besides that, it's just an easy process as long as you take the time and understand that they're not going to make mistakes at this age because they want to do bad. They're going to make mistakes because they're confused and they don't understand what you're asking, in which case all you need to do is be patient, take your time, and just say, this is what I'm looking for, and just show them. When they get it, big rewards. Let them sit and soak it up and move on from there. It's just, they're not going to just go be silly just because they're going to be, I know what they want, but blah, blah, blah. They just, maybe when they're 5 or 6 years old, they've had some training, but at this stage, that just doesn't happen. Every time they make a mistake, just tell yourself, well, he just doesn't understand what I'm asking at this point, and then be patient and working through it. So anyway, let's get started here with Loki. Before anything, it's very important from day one, I want to be able to start isolating every part of my body. I want to isolate the head and neck, the shoulders, the rib cage, and the hip, all separately from one another before I try to put them together. The reason being is because when we're moving around, they're going to make mistakes at this age and maybe not go to the left as shaped or as balanced as I'd like, or not go to the right and things like that. So for instance, if they're going left and they're diving their shoulders in, their head to the outside, I need to be able to, say, pick up on the reins, put them in this shape, lift the shoulder where I need it to be, and not say, okay, I'm being pulled on to the left, I'm going to dive my shoulders further to the left. It's a big problem if you pulled on a left rein and they just follow it even harder with their shoulders, or even push the hindquarters out to the right. You want to be able to isolate each of those body parts. So just to do that, to start off with the head and neck, I'm just going to flex him from a standstill so he understands that when I pull on one rein at a time, he just needs to give the head and neck. He doesn't really have to worry about his hindquarters or rib cage or anything like that. So what I'm doing is I'm just sliding my hand down. I'm asking very, very gently, pulling up to my hip. When he gives to that pressure, I drop it and tell him that he did a nice job. At his stage, if he doesn't do as good as I'd like to, I'm going to start bumping and tell him, hey, you need to come all the way in there, and when he does, he needs to get off of that. This is, like I said, his 7th ride, so he knows how to give. It's not perfect, so my bump's just going to be a little reminder, hey, get off of that pressure. But he does know it, he does understand well enough to get off of that pressure, so I do need to discourage him for leaning on that. So I'll ask gently, and then see there's a little lean, bump, 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 and say, Loki, you need to get all the way off of that. Slide, bump, 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 release. Slide, bump, bump, bump. So you just keep on doing this, and every day they just get a little bit lighter and a little bit more understanding of what they're supposed to do. It's very important when you start your young horses that they understand how to carry themselves at a walk, trot, and canter without you up on their face and pulling on them. If you're pulling on them, so for ride 1, if you start riding like this, I'm not saying you can't get it done. A lot of people do it this way, and they've had a lot of success with it, but you're going to take a lot longer to get things done. And they're not going to learn as quickly because basically when you saddle a horse and get on and ride, they have to compensate their balance for carrying you. The easiest way that they can do that is by giving them a loose rein and just traveling. I love to just go around the arenas, walk, trot, canter while I'm rubbing on him and moving all around, and he's just saying, how can I carry myself in the best way to balance it? Whereas if I'm pulling on him, he only has so many options. He basically is at my mercy to move his body like I want, but I don't really have body control on rides, 1 through whatever. So I need him to figure that out on his own. And I'll show you what I mean by that. When I start off getting around, I'll walk him around, I'll just have a loose rein, I'll be rubbing on him and things, and we'll just go walking places. I don't really care if he goes left or right or anything like that. I'll just go. Now, when I do want him to stop, I'll just kind of pull him over here just so I can be closer to the camera. If I do want him to stop, from day one, I'm teaching him to listen to my seat. So I'm going to sit down deep, I'm going to push my legs forward, get him to the count of 2. Now, if he listens to that, that's great. So what I'll do is I'll flex him one way and flex him the other way, and just sit here for a couple seconds, and that's his reward for listening. And then I'll go off again. This time I'll just go ahead and trot. Squeeze, cluck, and now if he didn't go into that trot when I asked for him, I have my body right here. I just go and kind of spank it back and forth like this while I'm still squeezing and clucking. Now he's not listening to this right now, which is good, because I'm not squeezing or clucking, so this means nothing. But if I do squeeze or cluck, then this body is like a backup to that and says, I need you to move your feet a little faster. So lots and lots of moving around on him. Sit, 1001, 1002, flex one way, and flex another way. Let him sit here for a couple seconds. Very, very important you give him a couple seconds. A lot of people get in the habit of stopping and then going. Stopping and then going. Pretty soon your horse will stop when you sit, but they'll have like this springboard effect where they go, stop, go, stop, go, stop. I want him to sit and wait for me to ask him something else. So I'm going to squeeze, cluck, and then my spanker comes up. There we go. So Loki, as I told you, is a little bit more on the sensitive side. So the last thing that I want to do is if I'm asking him to go forward, I don't want to just get back there and whack and say, hey, you need to go. So sit and stop and flex. What I want to do is just kind of keep on applying the pressure. Even if I need to be spanking him, I'll just kind of spank. If I had my spanker up here, it's just kind of like, hey, find the answer. And as long as he's kind of pushing forward, whether it's trotting or cantering, I'll just kind of let him find it and fall into that next gait. Now with Cowboy, my other horse, my lazy horse, I'll be a lot quicker to apply a little more pressure because he'll figure out that this means nothing pretty soon and he'll just completely ignore it. Whereas Loki, if I taught him right now, if I squeeze, the spanker's coming and going to get him, he's just going to launch into those gates and it's going to take a long time to correct that mistake. So I don't want to overdo that. So I'll go ahead and show you the camera as well. Squeeze, kiss, and he went into that nice. So it's very important. Okay, so he dropped down to a trot, so I just started the sequence over again. I squeezed, kissed, and then if I needed to spank, I would have, but I didn't. So I'll just keep on loping around here. As they're loping, I want to be moving and really just showing him that it's no big deal that my arms are flailing. I might go ahead and pet his neck, slap his butt a little bit. He needs to be broke with all this movement with both hands. Okay, I don't want to be riding down the trail and go ahead and wave. So I sat down and he really didn't stop to it, so I pulled my hand back and reached down to flex. Now as soon as I got here, he stopped. Sometimes they don't stop when they reach that point and it just takes flexing them and they may even yield their hindquarters a little bit. No big deal at this stage. Don't get too picky about your horse not stopping to your seat. For instance, like there. So right there he chose to go on his own. I'll just bring him here in a flex and I'll say, I didn't ask for that. But again, I'm not reprimanding him. It's just him not understanding what I'm asking. So don't make a big deal if your horse doesn't stop to your seat at this stage. Normally, with good practice and consistency, it takes between 5 and 15 rides for an average horse to do that. This is Loki's 7th, and sometimes he stops to my seat, sometimes he doesn't. It doesn't bother me whatsoever. So you just keep on going through the program. So after you get that stuff done, what I really want to do is start isolating more parts of the body. What I'll work on right now is the rib cage. So what I'll do is I'll take my inside rein and I'll pull it up to my hip. At the same time, I'll apply my inside leg. Now when I feel him softening his head and neck as well as his rib cage away from my leg, I'll release my leg and I'll release my hand just a little bit and ask him to maintain that shape on his own. But as soon as he straightens out from that shape, I'm going to pull right back up to my hip and apply that leg again. There, he's maintaining that. So there's about 3 steps that he maintained that all by himself, so I'm going to let him walk out as a reward. At this stage, every time he shows me that he's understanding what I'm asking, I let him out of that, and that's how he says, hey, something I did right there must have been the right answer. So let's do it to the right. Right rein, right leg, pushing with my right leg, pulling with my right rein. Every time he softens, I release down to my knee. Every time he straightens out, I pull back to my hip. If he loses a little momentum, I'll cluck at him, say, I need you to go. A little bit stiffer on this side, isn't he? No big deal. I just wait until, there's about 2 steps that he found that all by himself, and I let him out. Now I'm going to go to the right again because that was a little stiffer than the left. He's losing a little bit of momentum. If I need to, I'll cluck at him, and then I'll reach back here with my finger like this and say, please keep that forward motion. Now, I didn't ask for the trot, so I'm just going to hold him in here and wait until he comes back down to a walk. And there, and now I'm just going to go right back to what I was doing. Wait for him. There was a good soft step, so I'll let him out of that. What that does is it really helps break the rib cage loose and helps find their balance. When I turn left, I want my horse eventually to be looking left, standing their shoulders up. What that means is they can't be leaning that rib cage or the shoulder into that turn, or else they're going to be losing balance. You know, the horses that tend to fall down or kind of slip and lose their balance a bit are the horses that are kind of looking to the outside, falling in with their shoulders. So if you pick that rib cage up, what happens is they stand that part up, and they're looking in a lot better, and they're a lot more balanced and refined. So I want to start working that from early stages. It's also very important to get control of the horse's shoulder. The shoulders are all about guiding. So how I start with that process is I bend them around my leg. I have my right rein ready to use, just like I did, except notice how my right hand's forward. I don't want to be pulling on with 2 reins like this and locking them up. See how he can stop moving right there? He's just not ready for that type of stuff yet. So I'll have my right rein forward so I'm not pulling on, and I'm bending him around to the left. When I feel him soften his rib cage and do a good job for me, I'm going to take off my inside leg, my left leg in this case. I'm going to apply my right leg, and I'm going to open the door with my left hand, and I'm just going to touch the rein on his neck with my right rein. See how he stepped across right there? As soon as I feel him step across once with his shoulders, I'm going to walk him out of that, and that's his reward, and then I'm going to go bend him around my leg again. It's very important to soften them out of those. Basically, you know, you're turning the shoulders there a little bit. If you don't soften them out of it, they get a little bit stiff and rigid, and those are the horses that start hopping around on the front end. That's not what you want. You want a good cadence there. So again, open the door with my left hand and left leg, close the door with my right hand and right leg. And there's 1 step, and there's 2 steps. Now soften them back up. So when I soften, my left leg comes on, my right leg comes off. Bend them around. So that was pretty good a couple times to the left. Let's go do the same thing to the right. Now my left hand's forward, bending them around here to the right. My right leg is on. And now I'm going to open the door and shut the door. That was a great step right there. I'm going to walk him straight out of that and then bend him around. He really, as soon as I applied that pressure, he knew exactly what he was doing. He only did this for the first time yesterday. So what he said right there was, you know what, I remember this, and I think I'm supposed to bring my shoulder through right here, and he did a wonderful job, so I wanted to reward him for that. Basically, every day I teach something new. On the first day, I ask for 1 step. On the second day, I ask for 2 steps. So watch what I do right here. There's 1 step. There's 2 steps, and then walk them out. Tomorrow, I'll ask for 3 steps. The next day, 4 steps. So it really doesn't take much time until you're getting full circles with little movements like this, because as long as they understand and learn gradually, it kind of goes together pretty quick. But if you ask for too much in one day, what happens is they start to really get confused or frustrated, and then they'll start to put up a fight. You want to avoid the fights. You know, if there's anything that you can do to avoid the fights at this stage, do it. If you think your horse isn't prepared enough to do an exercise, don't feel like you have to go and do that exercise. Wait until they're more prepared to do it, and have them understand that fighting's not a necessity. We can get something done where we're both just enjoying ourselves and having a good time. After I get some basic body control like that, then it's very important you start teaching your horses how to guide. But I don't teach them how to guide until they can walk, trot, and canter all the way around the arena, just wherever they want to go on a loose rein, and aren't dropping down all the time, and they're not nervous about the movement. Until that point, which it took Loki a couple rides to do that, I just didn't worry about guiding. He can go left, he can go right, he can do whatever, as long as he was confident maintaining the gait that I asked for. Now that he is that way, now we start to work on some patterns, and I'll show you the cloverleaf pattern. I'll start to do it at the trot. So when I'm going on a straight line and canter forward, if I'm turning, I'm looking in the direction, and I'm just letting him find. You see how my left hand is out here? I'm letting him find that, and then when he does, I release. So I'm going to find the answer here, wait there. As soon as he found it, I release, and now straight, straight, straight. If he were to veer off left or right, all I do is just bring him back to where I want it, and then I release it again. Every time you release your horse, they understand that what they're doing at that particular time is the right answer. So I'm straight at the camera, release, we're going straight. So if he veers, see how he's veering to my right? Bring him back and release. And now let's go left over here. So now I'll go ahead and do the same thing at the low. Squeeze. Yes. So just let them find it. Don't make a big deal. You know, at the beginning, they don't follow your reins just real naturally. It's not real natural for them. Don't make a big deal out of it. Just let them find it on their own. And always release and focus on your target. Pull left. I'll come right by the camera here. See how he's kind of pushing here? No big deal. If he lost his gait a little bit, I just push him up. Find it here. Let him find it. Look. Good. Bring him in here for us. Stop. Very good boy. Feel like I told you, this horse is very, very athletic, which is great, but I need him to also understand he can be athletic, but also be soft and maintain his cool about him. I don't want him to be all hopped up and athletic, because that's just going to get us nowhere down the road. I want him to be soft about it as well. What you'll notice, especially, this one compared to Cowboy, which I'm going to show you next, is when I'm guiding him or asking for these things, especially the more speed he gains, I'll be asking to go left, and he'll kind of lean into it like this. At this stage, I don't make a big deal out of it. If I were to, then we'd start that fight that I told you about. But what I want to do, as long as he's finding the right avenue to take with his legs, I just don't worry about it too much. Once he gets more confident, then I'll start asking for more bend and more collection as we go down the road. Whereas you'll notice Cowboy does a little bit different. Cowboy is just soft like butter already. So when we're loping around and I ask him left, he basically goes like this but keeps going this way. So I'll show you when we're riding him, but it's just a completely different horse. And you kind of approach him in different ways. With Loki, because he has a tendency to get a little bit nervous if you have too much pressure on him, I just do a lot of waiting and have a lot of patience with him. So it's very important that you understand that if you have a horse that kind of fits that mark. What I want to show you now is how to get a little bit more rib cage control. I'm going to use the fence to help me, and I'm going to start teaching my horse how to side pass. Yesterday was also his first day with this, so all I'll be looking for is a couple steps. What I want to do is I just want to stick my horse's nose right on the fence. Whenever you're teaching something new like side passing, it's very easy if you help yourself with the barrier of the fence because it eliminates forward motion. Oftentimes horses don't side pass very good because they want to go too forward. So what I'll do is I'll use that fence to eliminate that problem. So all I'll do is I'll hold my hands on the reins like this. I'm not going to pull my horse's head back. I'm just going to hold him up in case he goes left or right too much, and I'll fix that. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to apply my leg. Now I'm wearing spurs here, and the way that I use them effectively is I have a little saying, calf, spur, roll, kick. What I mean by that is always ask with your calf first, and then if they're not listening and a second goes by, apply the spur. Just press with the spur. If that doesn't work, then take the spur and roll it. If that doesn't work, then take the spur and start tapping it on their belly and continue to increase that pressure until they listen to you, and as soon as they give you that effort, get off. With Loki being a more sensitive type of horse, normally if I press with the calf and he doesn't listen, I hardly ever have to roll that spur to make a point, but I will if I need to. But as long as you're gradual with that progression, they're not going to get too worried about it. Also, it's very important that you don't let it rest there for like 5 or 6 seconds. Calf, spur, because they only have a small window of time in which they relate one thing to the next. And it really is pretty short, honestly. So calf, spur, roll, kick. Get the job done. So what I'll do is I'll press with my left leg here. Calf, spur, roll, kick. And there, he got off of that, so I released it. So I'm going to put his head back where I want it. Calf, spur, and I'm going to release that leg. Good job, Loki. Calf, spur, very good. Calf, spur. So you may ask why I applied the spur. Technically, he was moving his legs, but he was kind of pushing against my leg. The way that I felt that was, his rib cage was kind of out this way, and he wasn't really putting the effort to get off of it. So I wanted to make sure that I still applied more pressure and said, yeah, you're moving, but I need you to be a little bit lighter off of that. So let's try again. Calf, spur, very good. Calf, that's what I'm looking for. See that real light movement right there is what I'm looking for. Now I'll go the opposite way. Right leg is on, calf, spur, and I'm going to wait till he straightens up. There we go. If he is lagging his hip behind, I might pull his nose to the right and even put my leg a little bit further back to catch that hip up. Calf, spur, roll, kick, and there, caught it up. Good boy. Calf. That's really nice. Good boy. He was lagging his hip a little bit, but I don't want to be too picky at this stage. If it's way, way out here, I'll be picky, but if it's just a little bit, no big deal. It'll fix itself over time. Calf. I really like that lightness right there. As soon as I pressed with my calf, you just took those steps, and that was beautiful. Try again. Calf. Very good. So how am I going to start applying this to where we're walking forward is, again, I'll use the fence as a barrier, but I'll walk forward, and what I do is these are called leg yields. What a leg yield is let me kind of approach the camera and show you. Now, I'm going to stop here. He doesn't know this off the fence. Yesterday was his first day as well, so I'm not going to try to confuse him out here. But what a leg yield is imagine if I was pressing with my left leg, I'll tilt his nose a little bit to the left as well and kind of open the door with my right hand, press with my left leg, and get him to walk forward and to the side on an equal plane. So it's like 45 degrees out one way. Why I like to do this, these leg yields a lot at the beginning, is because when that head is bent to the inside like that, well, it's inside his, it's actually outside on the direction he's traveled. But when that nose is bent like this and that head's bent while they're going that opposite way, it promotes more softness, and I'm also isolating more of those body parts. To where if I started going real straight doing this, I may get the same result just as quick, but they'll start to lean over into that bridle like this, and they'll lose a lot of their collection and softness. So I like to use that kind of getting their head kicked out to the side to my advantage. So I'll walk down this fence line, and all I'm going to look for is a couple steps. As long as he steps off, I'm going to go ahead and release. So I'm going to tilt his nose to the right, press with my right leg. 1, 2, and then release that. Very good. Now his hip went too far, and it wasn't, real pretty, but all I'm looking for is the basic understanding. Press, spur, roll, roll. There we go. So he was kind of leaning into that, a little confused. Again, he's not making that mistake because he's trying to be bad. He's making it because he doesn't understand. So be patient. Press. Now right there, he got right off my calf. I really, really like that move. Good boy. Get him walking down this long fence here. I just love how he's carrying himself right now. Real relaxed and confident about this movement. Very, very nice. I'm happy to see that. Tilt his nose to the right a little bit. Press with my calf. 1 step. I'm kind of rolling my spur now. He's not listening. I'm waiting until that shoulder. See, that hip's just coming too much. Waiting on it, waiting on it. I'm rolling, rolling, rolling. Get off of that, get off, get off. Pluck at him a little bit. Anything that I can do. I just want to keep it up, keep it up, keep it up, keep it up, keep it up. I'm going to start kicking him a little bit. He's not listening. There. So there's that 1 step. So we went through quite a little fight right there. Well, when I say fight, it wasn't a big fight, but he did have a little bit of an objection there. And so I just kept at it, kept on gradually increasing that pressure. And when he got off that, let's try this. Press with my left leg. 1 step, 2 steps. Very good. Rub, rub, rub. And then I just bring him right back down the fence line. This fence is your friend. Use this fence a lot at the beginning. It'll help your training go along a lot quicker. As he gets here, I'll do the same thing. Get him off my left leg. Get my hands ready, pull, and press with my left leg. All right, there, he did a good job about that. Now, as he starts to get more refined, you'll notice he'll start tucking his nose and getting off of those 2 reins, but he doesn't know that at this point. As far as pulling on 2 reins and everything, now, I didn't ask for that trot, so I'm going to sit and flex him and say, you need to think about that a little more. He wasn't bad about it. He made that mistake thinking that was the right thing to do, but it wasn't in that case, so I just stopped him and said, you need to think back about me a little bit better. So at this stage, the only way that he knows 2-ring pressure is just from a standstill. If I pick up on it, he just needs to get off that pressure a little bit, which he's getting pretty decent, but he needs to be a little bit better at the standstill until I start to incorporate that into forward motion, whether it's lateral or we're going in straight lines. So at this point, it's like I bend it this way, and this ring is just kind of helping him as needed. I'm not saying, tuck your nose while doing this. That will just kind of compress him too much and get rid of that forward motion, which I need at this stage. So don't be too picky about their head until you get the feet doing what you want. If you can get about 10 really good steps with their feet, then go and say, now I need your head to be more where I need it to be. But until you can't get that 10 steps, it's too much to ask them to do. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching Loki. This was his 7th ride today. I'm just thrilled with how he's doing. I love this horse to death. And I just can't wait to see where he ends up. You know, I'm really excited to see each of them because they each have their pros and cons. You know, this horse is just so athletic. I think there's nothing he can't do well if I can give him confidence, you know, especially adding speed and adding crowds and things like that. I think it might be pretty tough for him. So lots of repetition and lots of exposure I think will be great. Whereas Cowboy, you know, he's got the athletic ability if he wants to use it. And that's a big part of training too. You know, if they're so lazy that they don't really want to use that athleticism, well, there's nothing I can do to say you have to. You know, I don't want him not to enjoy his job, so I need to find other outlets. So I'm really excited to see how much I can get out of each of these horses, and I hope you enjoyed the progress along the way. Thanks for watching, guys.